Greetings and welcome to the Hills of Steel Tank Breakdown series. I'm your host Andrew and we're back with another video in the series. Today we're super excited to actually be bringing you a brand new tank that's in the game today. Say hello to Kraken. This incredible squid-like tank is going to be one of the most fun that you actually play in the game because of a number of really interesting mechanics. As you can see on the screen, there's a number of skins that are currently available for it: Deep Sea, Eldritch, and then the standard Squid skin. Also, although your driver is inside a protective casing, don't forget that you can still customize them to look pretty cool too. Okay, now that we've got our costume ready, let's take a look at the tank. Kraken is like most other tanks. It has all the standard boosters that you can get with it, and it can be leveled up with coins and cards. Normally, we would play it at the base level. However, for this video, we're going to really pump it up to show you the full potential of what Kraken can do. So, let's level it up to its max level. You'll notice that it has a very good gun and decent armor. But of course, once we then start to level that up, it'll bring us all the way to maxed out and make it an incredibly strong tank. The engine itself still remains a little low, but you'll notice that when we get into the game, the speed of the tank itself is actually still decent. So, let's start off with our usual and jump into some Midsummer Siege. As we get into the game, you'll notice the movement of the tank. It has these incredible arms that it is able to walk on, and the speed of it, like we said, is pretty decent, so getting across maps is going to be pretty good. Now let's talk about those attacks. The first attack you'll notice is a spike that shoots out from the two main arms. This spike has a number of features. 1. When it hits a tank, it'll do direct damage. It will then land on the ground, and as you'll notice, it will then shoot spikes up from the ground that will do a number of things. The first thing is, it'll do a lot of damage to any tanks that are underneath it. So as we shoot our spikes, do some damage directly, and then they detonate underneath, they'll do additional damage which will help take the tanks down. This gives a sort of double damage style to the Kraken. With the number of available spikes, you're able to fire off quite a lot and take control of a big area in front of you. So that basically means that it doesn't matter if there's one or multiple enemies coming towards us. With the spikes firing out and doing the direct damage and then the additional damage underneath, we should be safe from most tanks. Now, let's take a look at that special. The Kraken Special is without doubt one of the coolest looking attacks that we have in the game. When you use it, it will jump Kraken up into the air and fire off a massive laser that starts below the Kraken and proceeds forward. It does a lot of damage. It will wipe out entire tanks that are in the area in front of you, and not only that, let's take a look at it against a boss as well. Thunderclap stands no chance. So if you find yourself in a tough situation with a bunch of tanks pushing in and your spikes aren't doing enough damage, the special is going to be there to really save your skin. One of the things to note as well about the spikes when we fire them. When you fire them out, yes, they do additional damage and then they do damage underneath them. However, they have one extra attribute that is actually very important. When you fire them out and they land on the ground, as they pop up from the ground, they actually create a wall that the tanks cannot pass through during the duration that they are there. So you can use this to your advantage to actually fire them out and use them as a little wall to block off enemy tanks that are pushing forward. This could be very useful in the likes of PvP and other modes where there are plenty of tanks rushing towards you. You'll also notice that there is a little bit of an arc to the spike shots. So if we get too close to enemies, the spikes are going to go over the top, and then when they hit the ground, spike upwards, but they won't do any damage. So we need to ensure that when we are attacking the enemies, that we are at the right distance so that we can get the hits to land. This will also be something to take the terrain into consideration as well. If you're standing on a hill, you want to make sure that the arc of the spikes is going to be hitting the enemy tanks. otherwise they're going to go over the top and miss completely. This is one of very few things that you'll need to learn about Kraken. At the end of the day, it is a relatively straightforward tank. You move forward firing off your spikes so that they hit the ground and enemy tanks, and then pop up to do additional damage. Use your special to wipe out waves of enemies and do incredible amounts of damage to bosses if need be. But of course, your regular spike attack is going to be enough to take down enemies as well. But let's now take a look at where the Kraken does have some issues. Let's jump back out of this and let's go into some jungle patrol. The reason why we're going into jungle patrol is to show one of the weaknesses of Kraken. As most people will know, in jungle patrol and some of the other levels, there are a lot of flying tanks, and this can actually prove as a little bit of a problem for the Kraken, due to the fact that your special laser ability hits only ground units, and the spikes, although they have a little bit of an arc, don't actually reach towards the sky. And especially whenever they hit the ground and spike upwards out of the ground, they are definitely not going to be able to reach the air units. So, when we travel through maps like this, all ground units are going to be no problem for us whatsoever, either through our spikes or our special. But when it comes to air units, then we're going to come into some problems. So far, we've been fortunate that most of the tanks that we have seen so far have been land units, so we haven't been too much worried. However, when we do get towards the air units, you'll notice that we're unable to reach them with our spikes at all. This means that with the Kraken, you're going to have to play very carefully and use the terrain to your advantage to try and reach those air units. Most likely on smaller hills like the ones we're traversing over right now, won't give you the height that you'll be able to reach. So, you'll want to find good sized hills that you can sit on and aim further up into the sky to be able to get your spikes to go towards the enemy units. You'll notice here that we're using a small hill, and when we're firing, a few of the spikes manage to hit. But if we're on smaller hills or flatter terrain, this wouldn't happen. So just be wary of this whenever you're going into maps that have air units. So, what have we learned overall with the Kraken? It's incredibly cool. Not only the attacks, but the special attack looks amazing. It's a relatively straightforward tank to play. You can move forward, fire off your spikes at the right distance to get them to pop up out of the ground, do direct damage, and then do the additional damage from the extra spikes. Use your laser special ability if you want to wipe out waves of bosses or waves of mobs very quickly, and be careful of whenever you're going across terrain and fighting against air units. You'll need to be careful of that the most. At the lower levels of Kraken, you may find it a little bit more difficult, but once you start to get him leveled up, he's going to be an incredibly strong tank that will get you through almost any game mode. This concludes our first look at the brand new tank Kraken. It's available in the game right now, so go check it out. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all the content that we have coming out. Join our Discord where you can chat with other fans of the game, share fan art, and participate in giveaways. Don't forget to follow all our other social medias as well to know when the live streams go out, as well as all our content in general. Also, if you've already got Kraken and you want to let us know how it is, or give us hints or tips for beginner players on how to play them, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to know how you're enjoying Kraken. Until the next time, have fun, and we will see you on the hills.